What's up? Last week we talked about world building. This week we are talking about the characters in that world and how to write a good, strong character. Your main characters in your story need to be defined early on, rather quickly as well in your story. That doesn't mean to describe all of them in that one setting or in one paragraph. Do not do an info dump. You can add in details throughout the course of the story, but the major details of the character need to be kind of revealed early on, unless a certain thing is supposed to be hidden from the reader until later on in the story as a mystery. You can wait then, but for the most part, get your main details out of the way early on. Age, the way they look, ethnicity, race, gender, maybe hair color, hairstyle, eye color, stuff like that. And any distinguishing features, tattoos, scars, anything that will make them unique. Along with the initial details, you can add in whether they're wealthy or poor, whether they work or don't work, what kind of work do they do, what kind of work have they done, are they in school, their day-to-day habits in a sense, their traits, their personality, stuff like that. You don't have to go through and name off every single thing that I just mentioned in the story up front. If it has no relevant to your story, you don't even have to mention it ever. And some of the stuff you can wait and do it later on. But earlier in the story would be better for getting the basic details out of the way so your reader understands and grasps your character fully. One thing you can do as a writer to make your characters seem more unique is give them little quirks. Give them a goofy attitude at times. Maybe they say something differently than what others say. Maybe how they walk or how they eat might be different from other people. Just little quirks here and there. Maybe they snort when they laugh. Just different things. And if you have trouble to really define a regular quirk that you think would work for your character, just people watch. Go to work or to school or whatever and just see how other people act. And most people have a unique quirk about them. It might be very minor, but it's there and it makes them more unique. And that'll make your character more unique and seem more realistic because they're not picture perfect in a sense. They are more kind of, average. And one of the benefits of having them unique is so that they don't just blend in with all your side characters or any of the other main characters of your story. And also you don't want them just to be the average wizard or something and it just seemed like any other story that they've read, like Harry Potter or anything. You don't want them to fit that normal mold. With side characters, it's not that big of a deal because they're side characters. That's not what the focus of your story is. But your main character, your protagonist, your antagonist, maybe your protagonist's love interest, and a few other, really close-knit characters that you might use for your story, they need to be unique and they need to stand out so people hear the name and they'll be like, oh, I know exactly what book that's from. I know what they look like. They have this kind of face, scar, clothing, whatever. You want them unique. And one way you can make them unique, at least within your own story, is give all your characters completely different personalities so that they're not all similar. If they're similar, and they might be like, oh, that's from this book, but I can't really remember which character's which or anything. But if you give them different personalities, then they'll like, oh yes, I know exactly which one that is. You want them to be unique and stand out from your other characters. Not only for their benefit, but for your reader's benefit and for your other characters' benefits, especially if you're doing like me and have a bunch of different characters. You want them each to stand out on their own. Something else you can do to make your characters more unique, besides the quirks or the personality traits, is give them flaws. People want to invest in a character that they can relate to. And the majority of people, aka 100%, have flaws. They might not want to admit to it, but they have some. Regardless if it's minor or, major flaws, they are there. Whether it's, slight temper, maybe if it's a physical disability or a mental disability or something, some type of flaw that sets them back. They can't just be perfect all the time. Plus, you want to make sure that the flaws and the quirks don't contradict your character's traits or personality or their intelligence level or whatever, in a sense. Because you don't want someone to be very ditzy and dumb if they have a high IQ, and you don't want someone to have like a PhD in something and have a really low IQ. And a good character has a need or want to actually do something to carry along the plot, which this might actually seem kind of irrelevant. You think, well, if they're my character in my story, they will be doing or needing to do this plot that I have for my story, otherwise there's not a story. But there are plenty of books out there that the main character isn't really doing anything. They're just going through their day-to-day lives, and there's not really a plot in the book itself, which makes it a very slow read and very uninteresting because there's no what if type factor. You're just reading, you're like, I live this every day, why am I reading it, basically. So your character, for it to be a very good, compelling character, as well as the story, needs a good plot, and your character has to be invested in that plot, whether they want to be or not. You know, if they get thrown in a dungeon and they have to escape, they might not want to get thrown in that dungeon, but they are going to want to escape, and they are invested in it, and they will be wanting to do what they can to get out. You also want to give your character depth, because a character who can just be summed up on a page isn't very interesting. And I'm not talking about summed up on a page like their details are. He's got blue eyes, blonde hair, you know, he's 5'10", whatever, stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about their actual personality, their core, who they are. If you just write all their stuff that actually makes them within just a few pages, one, it's going to sound like an info dump, and two, there's nothing really more to explore for the character, in a sense, for the reader. So you want to kind of expand it throughout the book. Give them a little bit of details here and there, as well as very go in depth with it. One of my characters, he has this feud against another person, but you're not really told about that until later on, and then you kind of go back and kind of put the pieces together, as well as he had this event that happened like in his past. It's brought up a few times, but you're not really fully told what it is until later on. You want to really go in depth. Like last week with the world building video, which if you haven't checked out, I think it's going to be down below. You get the do history, put history into your characters. That way they actually seem more realistic. They have a past. They're not just here and now, which is another thing you need to do for your characters. You want to make sure you're not just writing your character here and there. You need to make it seem like they've had a life before your story started, and they're going to have a life after your story ends, unless they die. Then they're dead. And to give your character depth, I mean, you can ask yourself a couple questions. You know, what's their purpose in life? Why do they do the things that they do? And how will they react in different scenarios? You know, are they frightened? Are they scared? Are they more brave? Are they protective? Are they timid and shy? You know, how do they react and handle themselves? Could they really be scared and shy most of the time, but when they're around other people and faced with danger, they want to feel more heroic in a sense, and they will step out of the comfort zone? You know, you want to actually make it so you know all this stuff, so if that situation presents itself, you know how they will act. As well as you want to make sure your reader kind of understands that too. You don't want them to be shy the whole story, and then something happens and they step up and they're like heroic and stuff and brave, because then your reader's just going to be like, that's not that character, it seems nothing like him. But if you kind of intertwine, you know, maybe internal dialogue or something, or other little hints where they feel like they need to show out, I guess, in a sense, for other people to make it seem like they are not as shy, or that they're trying to become less shy, then that would make more sense for them to do that later on, instead of just being scared and shy the whole story, and then at the end they do something that they would normally not do. Makes no sense. So you gotta make sure you kind of understand exactly their mentality, in a sense, to really get a grasp on them, which goes into the whole making sure your character has depth. If you know that how deep their character goes, then you'd be able to make a more realistic and believable character for your readers. Back to the plot point earlier, you want to make sure your character serves the story. You don't want them just to be a space filler. They need to actually serve a point in the story to progress the plot along. If they aren't, they are more of a side character and they are more of a space filler. Even your side characters don't really need to be space fillers. They need to serve a purpose, whether it's just a very small purpose to give information or to, lead the main character a different direction. You want to make sure that everything serves the point of the plot. If they were just there just to be there, it's just a space filler, and you can just delete that right out of your manuscript because it serves your story no purpose. You want to make sure you're molding them after an event has happened. You don't want something to happen and then not change them, and then later on in the story they change, and it'd be from the event. It would kind of happen pretty naturally. As well as if they're faced the same situation multiple times and they change, they would react to it differently, which is kind of what this is talking about. You want to make them change and mold them based off the situation and give it actual reasons. And not only that, when the time comes that it happens again, they are different and they react different. They know what they're doing, or whatever the situation may be. They handle themselves differently. But you don't want to just keep doing the same scenario over and over throughout the whole story to make the character change that way, and then it just gets too repetitive and your reader will just be turned off too much and be like, yeah, I'm done with this. And lastly, you just want to make sure you know your character. You don't want to have your reader reading it and there be inconsistencies with just minor details of your character, like hair color, eye color, or something. That just turns off the reader really quick because they're like, they don't even care about their characters to make sure it's the same character. Why should I? So just make sure that your characters are very consistent, that you are using the same character that you started the story with. So yeah, that's it for today. Go check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I got me a Patreon account recently, so go check me out on there. I'll be trying to get y'all some exclusives pretty soon. I do videos every Monday, so be sure to subscribe over here and click the bell. Peace out. Yali.